the connections. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Instagram. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thumbs up button, ladies and gentlemen. Like, share, and subscribe. How's everyone doing? The Lawyer Henderson podcast show is on to you here today. And we are basically in the building. The number to call in is 516-418-5867. And that's 516-418-5867. And also, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to be still talking about and promoting your Black business. Today, we're talking about white supremacy, recent attack on Blacks and Asians. And we're going to have that topic today. And of course, as you know, we're going to have the white supremacists calling me up, trying to basically set a different narrative. Okay? That's the reason why the Black media was created on the grassroots level, so that we can basically take over the narrative, so that the white media will not propagate any lies anymore. See, it was very important for us to take over this narrative so that we can basically get people to understand their lies about, Black on Black crime and all of that, when we know behind closed doors and looking at reality that white men are commits the most crimes in this country. And that's a fact. We're going to be talking about it today on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. White men create a lot of crimes. It goes all the way back to the history of slavery and Jim Crow and other events throughout this history of white male violence. White men create most of all of the crimes. And we're going to be talking about it today on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. And statistics do show that. So why is Tucker Carlson even trying to lie and say it's because of this recent attack by Robert Aaron Long? He's trying to blame it on sexuality in the spas. He's trying to say Atlanta have a lot of prostitution, and that's where all the violence from Black men are coming from. This is bullcrap. This is trying to get us to then remove away from who the real criminals and perpetrators are, and that is white men. We're going to go to the phone. We're going to take your phone calls also at 516-418-5867. That's 516-418-5867. Let's do it. Five 516-418-5867 is the number to call in. Lawyer Henderson podcast radio show. We are in the building. We're doing it. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Hope everybody basically is doing okay. Lawyer Henderson podcast show coming live in Atlanta, Georgia, the home of the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Today we're talking about white supremacists' recent attack on Blacks and Asians. And of course, Asians' attacks on Blacks, specifically Black women. We're going to continue our conversation here. Hit that thumbs up button. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. And we're going to be talking also about what activist Sean King said about white males, the single most dangerous threat to democracy. White men engage in more crimes in America, and they're very psychic. They psyche. and they're rationalizing and celebrating their crimes through mass media and government, television shows where white men are shooting and killing you, and also talking about government and how government tries to play a role in rationalizing white supremacy and white criminality. For instance, Captain Jay Baker tried to rationalize the murders and the killing of Robert Aaron Long by saying that he had a bad day or he was having a bad day when he went on this shooting spree, killing these 8 people. And so the white supremacists always try to justify their criminality. They try to rationalize, and they try to the uh, move the facts and the truth in criminality and project it upon other people, like black folks, black men specifically. You see, that's their whole that's their whole way, and the white media as well, to try to undermine white male violence against people, against black men, against black people as well. But that's what we're going to be talking about here. But let's start off to dig deep into this whole conversation. I want to go with a recent news article that I found online, which is at alternet.org by Lisa Bloom. She wrote a piece, White People Commit the Most Heinous Crimes. So why is America terrified of black men? That piece is very historic. And she wrote this even before Robert Aaron Long decided to kill these people. She wrote this right before Dylan Roof shot those black people at a church. Understand? So we're going to be basically piggybacking on what she said back in 2014. And some of the things that she was basically writing in the article is important for people to understand. So that's who we're going to piggyback on. I think this was also the woman who did a story on Trayvon Martin in a recent article of Suspicion Nation, the inside story of the Trayvon Martin injustice and why we continue to repeat it. You understand? So, but her article, and this is fair use, the fair use laws that basically give us the right to basically use articles to critique for information purposes only. We're going to use our fair rights here. And I'm pretty sure you know the law. But let's go ahead and go to alternet.com. And I'm sorry, alternet.org. Underlining much of the subconscious racial bias is the most enduring, corrosive racial stereotype in America, the black as criminal mindset. Historian David Levering summarizing it. Whites commit crimes, but blacks are the criminals. While whites can and do commit a great deal of minor and major crimes, the race as a whole is never tainted by those acts. But when blacks violate the law, all members of the race are considered suspect, used to anchor a show on court TV when we heard about a new arrest for some horrific crimes. My African American co-host would whisper, "Please don't let him be black," she explains. It would never enter my mind to wish that a bad guy, not to be white, because no matter how sick the crime, other members of the white race are not in punch. So here's a woman who is a member of the press who basically are doing these types of stories and telling her female co-workers or colleagues we have to report these crimes, of course, their white media is wanting to tell those stories as if a black man is perpetrating it all the time. And when there's a black person that has committed a crime, not to say that we're not involved in crime, but we have to then basically be perpetuated deeply in the white mainstream media. And it also happens when white men create crimes. You see, white men create crimes, the white media tries to undermine that criminality. And we're going to be talking about people like Fox News anchor Tucker Carlson here in a minute. Remember Zimmerman's false syllogisms? A few black committed burglary. Trayvon was black, therefore Trayvon was a criminal. Similar logic is used daily in the assumption police and citizens make about African Americans, especially young males. The black man as criminal stereotype runs deep. The archetype is prevalent that the majority of whites and African Americans agree with this statement. Blacks are aggressive or violent. And a nation survey in support of these findings. Other research indicate that the public generally associate violent street crimes with African Americans. Other nationwide research have shown that public perceives that blacks are involved in greater percentages of violent crimes than official statistics indicate that they actually are. Notice how the reason about race runs right in an insulting conclusion. Blacks are criminals, but never too positive, which would be equally illogical. No one thinks. You see, so what we basically are trying to do in the media, and what white supremacists have been doing before the black media have came around, the real black media, we're not talking about your roly-polies and all these other black people who want to play dumb with racism and try to basically use their platform to tell a joke. Not those types of black people. We're talking about the grassroots media, because we're sounding the alarm upon this notion that we have to really deal with the facts that white men commits more crimes. White on white crime is very prevalent. Sexual abuse, sexual assault crimes, you look at it, mostly white men. And this is even perpetrated in their movies. You understand? And television shows. The standard assumption that criminals are blacks and criminals are black and blacks are criminals is so prevalent that in one study, 60% of viewers who viewed a crime story with no picture of the perpetrator falsely recall seeing one. And of those, 70% believe he was African American. When we think about crime, we see black, even when it's not present at all. End quote. Now, here's the thing. That's what the white media has to do. It has to project their criminality off of the original perpetrator and onto the victims. That's the basics of the white supremacist media. You see, Tucker Carlson, he basically is now trying to basically remove this crime that Robert Aaron Long did against these people, these Asians, mostly Asians, onto black males. You see, the white media does not have any kind of new things to do. They don't have anything else to do but to project the black men as being criminals, because that is how you continue to run a society. First, you project the lies that black men are criminals. Then you start going out there recruiting other black people And then you put them all in jail for no apparent reason, and you start counting noses, and then you say, look at all these black men. They are all criminals, you see. And as black women should be basically upset because these people are taking your husbands away from you. Okay? So it's not enough just to listen to the white media and listen to how that when you sit in front of the TV, that propaganda, okay, that propaganda is very, very, very inculcated into the psychic mind of black people and other races as well. And the white media is now trying to do the same thing with this attack on Asians. That black people are out here attacking Asians. You see, this is what they're wanting to do. Because see, the white supremacists, see, their numbers are dropping. So they need to have their buffer class, in which they call the Asians the model minorities, trying to undermine black people and our contribution to the world by calling other people who have not built a nation in this country successfully like we have done, even though they have done it in their country. Of course, they basically have great strides, but the white supremacists know that black people have built the most successful economic system in this country, in this world. So they're going to continue with their projection. See, this is the only thing that white supremacy have to stand on, and that is projecting. Is Robert Aaron Long 21 years old? Is he white or black? You understand? You understand? You can look at this man and clearly say that he's white. You understand? The article goes on to say, though, that the standard assumption that criminals are black and blacks are criminals. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go on. I read that already. Where did this insulting stereotype come from? The black as a criminal image has been with us at least since the 19th century, when explicit racism portrayed African American slaves, a central nature as ignorant and savage, a need of civilizing influence of the white man. See, the white man has it backwards. See, they're the ones that needed to be civilized. Black people made white men civilized. I had this white supremacist on my radio trying to call me last Thursday, talking about, oh, y'all need the white man, blah, 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 blah. No, no, no. Y'all need us. We basically helped y'all become civilized as people. And y'all turned around and used that civilization against us and conquer us. That's the reason why we got to have both black men and women into these homes, because black women are not going to, educate necessarily the kids into really understanding what white supremacy is all about. Okay. And even if there was a black man in there, if he's a beta male, he's not going to educate them as well. So you need a black man who understands white supremacy now to educate these kids. That's the reason why they're basically coming to the grassroots black media. Because we have to take the kids away from the black family and educate them, and so that they can basically understand the truth. That's why certain types of things that you cannot do, and you ask, well, why this is going on, that's going on. You see, there are a lot of black people who do not understand white supremacy, and then you have the black people who basically play dumb with racism and white supremacy. You understand? And that's a problem. You see, it was Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and Millie Fuller who taught us about white supremacy and how we should basically understand it. And if we don't understand it, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, we will only be confused. Let's go ahead with the article. It goes on to say that at that time, little black crime actually occurred, as slaves lived with rigorously controlled, and as slaves, lives were rigorously controlled, and they could be and often were swiftly put to death for perceived offenses against the slave owners who acted as judge, jury, and executioner. You see, this is the white man defining him or positioning himself as judge, jury, and executioner. And he's been playing that game for 500 years against us. As Chief Justice Roger B. Taney said in his famous 1857 Dred Scott versus Sanford decision about the founding fathers' mindset in drafting the Constitution, blacks had no rights, which actually this article is wrong. He said a black man has no rights, which a white man was bound to respect. Not blacks, he said black men. But it goes on to say that in that the Negro might justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery for his benefit. He was bought and sold and treated as an ordinary article of merchandise and traffic whenever profit could be made by it. In contrast, white slavers, who should have been the real criminals, imprisoned African Americans on their plantation, forcing them to live short, harsh lives in extreme poverty, working without any compensation, constantly subjected them to regular beating and threats of violence. Female slaves were often raped by white male slave owners. Well, in the 20th century, lynching of blacks in the southern United States were not only common, but were social events where white families would bring children in a picnic lunch and take pictures of the hanging to be made into a commemorative postcard. On average, an African American man, woman, and child was hanged, generally by a white mob, once a week, every week between 1882 and 1930, as police actively participated or stood by and condoned the murders. Lynching continues until 1950, and as thousands of black Americans were hanged for offenses like disputing with the white man, a much smaller number of whites were lynched as well, often taking the side of black people. Now, we're not going to basically think that, include that like this article did, because it doesn't matter if there's a few white people who basically participated or tried to save or talk or speak up against us. The fact is that this is white supremacy as we know it today. And that's what it goes on. And so it goes from a history of violence, a history of perpetrating, a history of this, okay? And that's the reason why Tucker Carlson and his lies that he basically is saying that it's not white supremacy, it is blacks. His blame is to really argue the same white supremacist rhetoric that we all are used to. Let's go on and talk about it on today's show here. Propaganda. 516-418-5867. 516-418-5867. Why do you think that black people don't like wanting to even confront racism towards white people? Why do you think that they don't want to really deal with it? Okay, we've been talking about it for a very long time, though, and we'll if we have time, we'll go into it. But here's the thing about Tucker Carlson. There was an article that I wanted to basically also talk about here in the piece. It says Tucker Carlson is using the Atlanta spa shooting to downplay anti-Asian racism and white supremacy. The Fox News talk host has been busy trying to blame black people for the rise in the violence against Asian Americans. And see, this is how they played each other, the two of us together. They'll try to say, okay, well, it is not white supremacy, it's these black people. They'll say, because they know that black people have always, it doesn't matter what you accuse them of, we are the only race that will just get up and say, can we all get along? So you can blame us for anything. You got black people even siding with the white supremacists, you see, which is a huge problem. But this article about Tucker Carlson is what we've been trying to get people to understand in a sense of why the white media has these types of people on the far left. I'm on far right. It's no different from the far left, far right. You're basically trying to help the white supremacists when you use that type of ideology, talking about there's a right wing or a left wing. No, it's white supremacy. Both of them, when it comes to black people, are on the same side. And you got to understand that. On Thursday, Fox News' Tucker Carlson attempted to attribute black Americans to the rise in the anti-Asian violence despite the surge of white supremacist terror in the U.S. Okay, we're using our Fair Use Act here. Asian Americans do suffer quite a few violence attacks in this country, unfortunately, he said, but this is zero evidence that that's a rise in white supremacy and driving those attacks. End quote. That's what Tucker Carlson is saying. Tucker Carlson goes on to say, though, that we don't have to guess about this because the Justice Department keeps the numbers, he continued. According to federal statistics, African American perpetrators are more likely than any other group to attack Asian Americans. It happens quite a bit, he argues. Carlson remark comes in response to the suspicion that Tuesday's shooting in Atlanta, in which a white conservative male targeted 3 Asian spas, killing 6 Asian workers, was a racially motivated hate crime. You see, we have to stop this white conservative, white liberal, far left, far white wing. We have to stop that. You see, we got to start calling this what it is. This is white supremacy. Both of them, the Democrats and Republicans are in cahoots together. And that's how they basically try to then take the blame away from the true perpetrators because they use these types of phrases and words in which black people get caught up into. Gee, we got to get the Democrats out of here. Yeah, they're the one up there talking about this. We got to get the Republicans and probably Republicans. She. You see, we keep on buying into their logic, their lies. And of course, they're illogical to blame some type of false reaction coming from a political party. Despite evidence that the perpetrator, Robert Aaron Long, 21, specifically targeted Asian salons, Carlson adduced the testimony of Long's former roommate from rehab, who advanced the claim that Long's killing spree stemmed from his struggles with sex addiction, you see. sex addiction. Okay, now let's stop right there. Wasn't is the police captain there from Cherokee County, the white sheriff, Captain Jay Baker? You know that when they found out that he was promoting all that anti-hatred against Asians as well on his T-shirts, wasn't this same sheriff the one who said that Mr. Long just had a bad day? But you have Tucker Carlson saying that he suffered from a sex addiction. But which one is it? See, the white supremacists do not basically come with a rationale on anything. And as I told you, they speak irrational. You understand? Robert Long seemed deranged, Carlson argued, but his obsessive and violent behavior seems all too familiar if you follow the news closely. Okay? You see, first, what Tucker Carlson is doing, y'all, come on, hit that thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. What he's trying to do is he's trying to put the blame on black people, then put the blame on his sex addiction. And that's the reason why I guess he'd been to these spas before, these massage policies before, getting that Asian, whatever. But Tucker Carlson tries to undermine, like the white supremacist media does, trying to undermine the white supremacists who shot and killed these people. Goes on to say, though, that Carlson also took issue with why there is so much prostitution in Atlanta, openly citing how there are more spas in Atlanta than Starbucks outlets. However, Carlson provided no direct evidence, despite his seeming love for the term, that a substantial prostitution in Atlanta occurs in spas. Instead, he cited the issue of human trafficking in Georgia at large. Violence in the country, he continued, occurs with racial groups. The only exception we found in the federal numbers were from Asian Americans. Asians are more likely to be attacked by African Americans than by members of their own ethnicity. End quote. And this is what Tucker Carlson is trying to spew. See, Tucker Carlson is trying to take the blame away from the white supremacists because Tucker Carlson knows that people are on code now. They've seen what black people have been experiencing so much. And so when you call somebody the model minorities, and Trump had let them know, look, y'all not a part of us. Y'all don't have no relationship with the white supremacists. And he's letting the so-called model minorities, which are the Asians, letting them know, you're not going to side with us. We white supremacists. We don't basically want none of y'all here. You understand? You're dealing with a real system, okay? Keeping you out of your mind, keeping you caught up into lies and manipulation. The man is talking so irrational here. He goes on to say, however, violence in the country, he continued, occurs within racial groups. The only exception we found in the federal numbers were from Asian Americans. Asians are more likely to be attacked by African Americans than by members of their own ethnicity. Okay, I've read that, I'm sorry. But he goes on to say, Carlson also accused Democrats in the mainstream media of scapegoating white supremacy as a way to curry votes among minorities in advance of the 2020 election. Now, this is, the white supremacists sometimes can bring a little bit of truth to their argument. They do bring few truths to their argument. But what they do is they try to compile certain types of few truths to make it appear like they're telling the whole truth throughout the entire conversation. And that's the problem. Now, yes, the Democrats are trying to basically get a lot of minorities back on the political trail so they can keep on playing this game. Oh, it's not Republicans, it's the Democrats. Oh, it's not the Democrats, it's the Republicans. See when we as African Americans and other ethnic groups, when we play that game with the white supremacists, they basically help to use, and it helps them to scapegoat who the real perpetrators is. Amos Wilson taught us that. According to the Stop AAPI Hate Report, 3,800 anti-Asian hate incidents, most of them directed at women, were reported over the course of this year during the pandemic, a marked jump from last year's count of 2,600. According to the Anti-Defamation League, incident of white supremacism have also skyrocketed by 100%, 120% over 2019. Now, of course, I don't basically listen to the Anti-Defamation League on anything, okay? But I agree with them on that number, up on that percentage. I tell you, like the white supremacists, they like to use the percentage game. They play that game. So let's play their game with them. You see, because here's the thing: we know that the most dangerous people in our society, the most terrorists, have been white men. We can go down lists and lists of how many American terrorist violence have been perpetrated in this country by white males. Let's talk about it before we go on the article. Dylan Roof, remember who he shot and killed? And we did a commentary on Dylan Roof. This is why black people, when y'all in these churches, y'all got to stop inviting everybody talking about they love the Lord. You understand? Because you can't invite everybody in. Oh, baby, come on into the church. Baby, you love the Lord. You see, you got to stop that because this is what happened in Charleston when Dylan Roof, an American white supremacist, neo-Nazi, and mass murder convicted for perpetrating the Charleston church shooting on June the 17th, 2015. He shot those black people. I think it was 9 of them. That being the case, that means that you cannot just basically trust the white supremacists and opening your arms to anybody. That's the problem. Timothy McVeigh, Terry Nichols, the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995, white supremacist terrorists killed 168 people in that building. I was 15 years old when our teacher came in 8th grade and said, hey, something happened at the Morrow Federal building downtown Oklahoma City. You see, white supremacy. Also goes on along with that, David Caress in Waco. He played a significant role in leading a cult, abusing children, physically abusing them, and then it finally ended with gun violence with the FBI and others. See, that's white supremacy here. The struggle for control. What was the Capitol riots about? The Capitol riots is the struggle of control. Who would basically direct and who would not direct, but who would basically tell these Negroes what to do for the next century or more? Some of us in the grassroots black media are calling this the second wave of Reconstruction. Remember the first wave, they basically accused us, remember? They said, the Democrats at that time said these black folks, they cannot be up here doing business with white folks. This is a white man's country, as that judge ruled in the Dred Scott decision. You see. But the second wave, here are the Democrats again. And this doesn't mean that this is Democrats and Republicans. This is them as a collective trying to basically pretend as if they are on a disagreement, and then they allow the black conservative end to help them to spew these talking points just like the white supremacists who called me last Thursday. We can go down the line, the Sandy Hook massacre. We could do somebody recent, like Kyle Rittenhouse and Robert Aaron Long. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll be here for hours telling you about different types of white supremacist male violence. I'll be here for an hour. You see, and this is what we're talking about. So why is there this lie in the mass media, the white media, talking about black on black violence or blacks killing Asians? That's propaganda. But the article about Carlson goes on to say that it's always wrong to blame an entire group for anything ever. Continued Carlson. You see, now he's trying to scapegoat white crimes against us and against Asians. Carlson's viewpoint is largely characteristic of much of the white ring disclosures surrounding the shooting. See, you can't not basically keep saying white wing, but for the sake of argument, let's go with it. Because for the moment, it makes sense to explain here. Okay? So when it says much of white wing discourse surrounding the shooting, which have tried to frame Long as the troubled individual plagued by his own mental illness. However, as Brookings fellow Rashawan, I hope I said the name right, Rashawan Ray put on Thursday, America over individualized and normalized domestic terror incidents, particularly when committed by white men. See, so we know that white men create more of the crimes and violence. We had activist Sean King, who, and I'm paraphrasing, who says the white men are the single most dangerous threat to democracy. They basically have a history of violence, terrorists, and criminality. We have to understand and look at this here. You see, when we play games with our minds, like a lot of these black people do, specifically the black conservative, you got to understand that that can only work so much. See, Conan can only go so far. And there is never, as we have often said in the black media, there is never a retirement plan for the coon, for the black coon. He or she never. The bed wench also, and the LGBT, these clowns, they never get anything out of being a coon. That's the reason why you got Stacey Dash apologizing, now wanting a black boyfriend. I mean, you're almost in your 60s. It's too late for you to try to get a black boyfriend and come back over to us now. You understand? You've been washed up by the white supremacists here too much. Goes on to say, though, that race cited, for instance, the excuse making of Sheriff Captain Jay Baker of Cherokee County Police Department, which arrested Long. Yesterday was a really bad day for him, Baker said, and this is what he did. You see, we just talked about that earlier. Remember Captain Jay Baker? See, the police is always on code with the white supremacists. That's the reason why you don't let white males be alone dictating your rules and laws, because they're going to be biased. Okay, that's the reason why they got a lot of these white judges all across the country. They are basically put in place because they're the white supremacist last token to escapism. You understand? When we talk there about all of the things that's going on about male criminality, isn't it possible for us to medicate white men since they do have some type of issues and problems, and that they're mentally going out here killing people and then blaming it on their psychic? Why are they not being medicated? So we could put them all on drugs. Or do Dr. Fauci, do he have some type of drugs to help the white supremacists with their dangerous of going around shooting and killing and perpetrating violence against innocent people? Do we have some type of medication that does that? Why do you want to give the medication to black people? If we're talking about criminality, why are the focuses on black men? It should be on white men. because they basically commit the more crimes than any other race, any other male within society. Race cited for instance. Oh, we already read that. So we have to understand the white male's propaganda and what Tucker Carlson is trying to do. You see, that's the reason why there's no such thing as a right wing, left wing. They're both saying the same thing. CNN is going to say the same thing. Cuomo, he talks the same thing. And then they'll bring your LGBT people in on the left wing, like like Don Lemonade, and they basically help to basically say the same thing that the white supremacists are saying. You see, there's no real communication about white male and their violence against other white people as well. Their violence against their own women, their violence against their own children. You got to look at this. The white male's violence and criminality is also perpetrated in these movies and TV shows where it's rationalized moreover here. We got to look at that, and it's very dangerous. It is very dangerous. You see, white male criminality is very, very dangerous. All right. Area code 605. You're live with Lawyer Henderson. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name's Joe. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Joe. Where are you calling from, Joe?
Montana.
You're calling from Montana. All right, Joe from Montana. What do you have for me here today on the Lawyer Henderson podcast?
Well, first off, your volume is very, very low. I can barely hear you through the speakers and can't hear you. Can only hear you through the phone.
Oh,
So I'll let you know about that.
sure. We're taking care of that, by the way.
And, huh?
I said we're going to take care of that, by the way. We're working on it right now. But what do you have for me? We can hear you on YouTube. We definitely can hear you on there, and I can hear you. So what's the question?
All right, good. And I wanted to know if, what is your definition of white supremacy?
Okay. We see. Here's the thing. Okay, because you sound like this guy who called Thursday with the same question, and we basically I've answered this question constantly. We talk about this in the black media about what white supremacy is. And you basically is playing dumb to what we're talking about. If you've been listening to my show, you would know what white supremacy is and what it's about. But you want me to define it again, just like your friend did. Let me just say this. You know what it is. You know what racism is. Okay? Have you ever heard of the term racism? Have you ever heard of the term racism?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just a codified word for white supremacy. You understand?
Let me try to sum it up and see if you agree with this.
Okay, go ahead.
White supremacy would be the category of white people, Caucasian. I'm going to talk about America now.
Okay.
Having enough power so that they will exclude non-white from utilizing their rights, exercising their rights for freedom of movement, the right to get a job.
I'm looking for the S word. Where's the S word? Okay. When you talk about white supremacy, you got to also talk about the S word. That S word is system. You understand? System. Once you can base.
You're choppy, and I can't hear you. You're choppy, and volume is still very, very low.
Okay, hold on. Let's try to fix that right quick. Hold on. All right, so I'm going to ask you to go on YouTube Live and listen to me, please. If you can do that. You can go to YouTube Live. Hold on. see this. All right, so you're using the word system, right?
While you're fixing the volume, let me try to sum it up again in a different way.
Okay.
Anybody who is part of the so-called ruling class means they have enough power of other people to keep them from getting resources, to keep them from getting what their rights allow them to do. So if you had, in other words, almost pretty much sums it up. If somebody cannot get a job, cannot get a loan, cannot get an apartment, cannot get a mortgage because he's excluded through the policies of a bunch of other people, that person is oppressed. Would you agree with that definition?
Yeah, of course I will. Oh, well, I won't. It's not a definition that completes. No, hold on. It's not a definition that completes the definition of white supremacy, though. But so far, I can use that as one of examples of white supremacy. So go ahead.
Well, what would be your more comprehensive definition and example of white supremacy?
Okay, I went over that. I went over that plenty of times, sir. If you've been watching my show, which I think you have, I've been over that plenty of times. Okay, sir, how old are you? How old are you?
I'm over 50.
Okay, so you're over 50 years old. So you're part of the old civil rights generation. You're part of the civil rights generation, right? You're part of the civil rights generation. So you experience, hold on, you experience, right. So you experience white supremacy. It's just that you use civil rights instead of white supremacy. You understand? Okay?
I don't understand.
Okay, you don't understand. Okay. All right. So since you don't understand, that means then that you basically need to be educated on what it is then. Right? You agree? Okay, and you also agree that you are a black man that was born during the civil rights era. Is that right?
That I'm what?
That you was a black man that was born during the civil rights era.
A black man okay, what about black men born during civil rights?
Right. Didn't you experience discrimination in the 60s? Yes or no?
Oh, there was plenty of it.
Oh,
Was
that's a system. Okay, so that's a system. Hold on. Hey, wait. Stop. You're not going to talk over me. You're not going to talk on me. Stop. Okay, you said Jim Crow. Jim Crow's a system.
The volume is low. You're not fixing it. I'll be glad to listen to you if I can give.
Go. Like I said, go to YouTube.
Okay.
Go to YouTube and listen to me on Lawyer Henderson TV. You'll be able to hear what I have to say. All right. So, is there anything else?
I'm not going to go.
Okay. Cool.
Well, yeah. I mean, to me, it's a very simple.
What do you think white supremacy is? If you can hear me, what do you think white supremacy is before you go?
White people are keeping them.
Go ahead. Finish. Go ahead.
If the rights of black people are not being violated, then it's not white supremacy. And if they are being violated, they have to be violated to a degree, and white supremacy has to be evident and proven. Just because some blacks don't get some jobs, some blacks don't get the loan, some blacks don't get the mortgages, some blacks don't get the apartments they want, doesn't necessarily mean that white supremacy is there. Would you agree with that?
No, don't.
You wouldn't.
No, I don't agree with that.
So if you go, you wouldn't. So white supremacy is pervasive throughout the country, and whenever a black person doesn't get what their
No, man, we black people. No. Black women are the most educated people in the country. They're the most educated people in the country. Okay, a white person. You have to create programs like affirmative action, and still it doesn't benefit black people because white people are control the jobs. They control the system. They control the hiring, the firing. Okay, it's not about your skills. You got 2 million black people with degrees that are living in shelters right now. You don't have. It ain't about your. Absolutely, and the one and the black people and the white people who are not controlling stuff. Go ahead, because you know I'm making stuff. Go ahead, continue.
What you're talking about is white supremacy.
Right.
Having enough power to prevent other people from exercising their rights.
Sure.
White people do not want blacks, for instance, to get the loans they deserve.
Right.
The jobs they deserve.
Sure.
The neighborhoods they deserve.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. One part of it, though. One part of it. One part of what you said. That was one specific. Those were good. Those were good examples of one part of white supremacy that you gave. I am glad that you gave it. All right. So, is there anything else before I let you go?
I guess I came in. Well, anyway, okay. Well, thanks. Take it easy.
Thank you, sir. All right. So that's what we're talking about on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. See, here's what we have to understand. We're going to always have the so-called black conservatives who is going to play dumb, or even not even black conservative. It could be some old coon who also like to play dumb, who would then take up for the Democrats. All right. The thing about this is that, see, Tucker Carlson knows that he's a liar. You see, the white supremacists like to rationalize their lies. That's the problem we have here. Oh, man. Oh, my God. Here we go. This is what we're talking about here. We're talking about black people scapegoating the facts. All right, so I guess this white supremacists are calling me back. How you doing, Zachary? Go ahead. You're on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show.
Well, I'll be quite the opposite. I'll be black supremacist.
You're who? Hello?
I said I would be what you might call the black supremacist.
Oh, you're the black supremacist. So you're not Zachary. Oh, I thought you was Zachary because he had that phone number. All right. So what's your name and where you call it from? And I'm still trying to fix the audio. I got my, friends here. We're trying to do something so we can get some live and some good sound. But besides that, can you tell me where you calling from and what's your name? Can we start with that?
Yeah, I'm calling from South Carolina.
South Carolina. And what's your name? Is James? Jason. All right. Okay. What's on your mind, Jason? Okay. You said you was a black supremacist, which means that you identify how?
With black people being on top.
Okay.
Black people, seeing themselves on the top. Rather than always, being played by a known white supremacist society that we live in. We do know that.
Okay.
Even the aspects of black culture that are messages that, even as the last caller was saying, it's a thing that where white supremacy has been interwoven in our very fabric of existence of what, how we know ourselves here in America.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? I can't speak for anybody else. And a large part globally, everywhere across the globe, they know the white man, and the white man has, done his thing there.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Sure.
And I say he's definitely still doing the number here, and it's the one where, even black folks can be white supremacy.
Oh.
You understand?
Yeah.
You got black folks that that contribute and that can be agents to assist white supremacy.
Yeah.
And saying black power, or identifying with the things that are going to make black folks, black communities, black family power. So therefore, that's why 2021 we still have deficits. We are all in arms, ready to go march with the Asians, and Asian lives matter too.
Okay.
But when we are killed, and a lot of times I remember those Asian, there was a lot of videos going around about the Asian treatment of black female couples. You understand? That didn't create any type of anger issue or anything.
Right.
I think us as black folks, we shouldn't mind identifying with the very things that are going to make us supreme.
Yep.
We shouldn't mind identifying with the very things that are going to allow us to get ourselves out of this plague condition, this beaten down mentality that we have, crab in the bucket, where we don't see ourselves as much. It's okay with identifying ourselves as the victor, as the one that is overcoming, not as the one that's always with his hands out. And I think I heard somebody was saying something about the Democrats earlier.
Yeah.
I don't feel like either party gives a damn about black folks.
Right.
My personal opinion, they have to show me.
Right.
So, but even with black folks find the safe haven in under the blue banner or under Democrats, that shit is, excuse me, that is crazy. That's crazy. So I think we should definitely take a step back and look at ourselves, and definitely look at things like the Panther movement and other movements that really reflected and highlighted, the greatness of us, and we're going to have policies, acknowledge policies, and enforce policies that we're going to assist our people, not just a band-aid approach, but really actually put us somewhere.
Okay. All right. Well, Jason, you said a lot there, man. I appreciate your call, brother, and don't be a stranger to the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Jason from South Carolina, spitting that fire. You see? Yeah, brother made a lot of good points. He sounded like T.I. He was like, brother, yeah, he sounded like T.I. a little bit, but hey, the brother was spitting game there. You see, I think what it is that, I mean, I don't feel like black people should be on top of anybody else, but what I am saying is that we have been oppressed so long that we basically believe that we can actually just have a working relationship with the white supremacists. And so we basically are out here wanting to commit suicide because of, just not having, not wanting to deal with what the true causes are. Shit, I want to take my own life because, see, white daddy is not giving me a loan. You see, that right there is examples of white supremacy. They're controlling your emotions. Like Meghan Markle said, I was threatened suicide. Black folks, you got to get over this wanting to kill yourself because the white supremacists are not saying yes to you. You see, a lot of black people dealing with depression and dealing with loneliness, and they think that the church is going to help. No. And that's the reason why we as black people don't like talking to each other because the problem becomes is that we don't want to confront the issue here. You got Joe Biden right now. He's doing certain things or even talking about certain things because he knows that the whole country is in a rut right now. He knows that he's an unpopular president. So he's talking about getting rid of the credit bureaus because there are so many things that black people and Asian and other people, not Asian, but blacks and Hispanics or Latinos specifically cannot get credit where their whole entire situation changed, and you're going on my report looking at something that happened to me 10 years ago. You see, we have to also talk about, see, white people have a private sector white supremacist ideology as well. The credit bureau. Nigga, I'm going to deny you a home loan because you didn't pay this balance back in 2017. Like, damn, really? Well, my situation changed now. We don't care. You see, so the white supremacists are getting desperate. So what they're doing is they're going to try to be a little bit lenient. They're trying to give out loans and grants, and they're trying to get people to go back to school, and they're trying to have, they're trying to play it good for us now. And you got a lot of black people falling for it. Gee, y'all talking about giving no PPP loan? Gee, I'll be the first one to learn. Gee, that's what I'm talking about. See, I love white daddy, white mommy. See. I'm going out there, and they're not even. Some of us are not even, getting those loans because the white supremacists and these banking institutions, they're not supposed to go by your credit. They're supposed to give it to you because of the evidence which is on your tax statements online or certain types of lines. See, this is what they're doing. So this is the reason why you cannot trust a bank. You can't trust these institutions. But let's not get off the subject here because we're talking about white supremacists and white supremacy and their recent attacks on Asian and black people. See, Asian people have to get off this lie that black people are attacking them. No, we're not. Some random mental black person who is just knocking over some 80-something-year-old Asian woman, that's not an example of black people attacking. That's you getting robbed because you're in the wrong damn place at the wrong time. You understand? You're not getting robbed and beat up because you're an Asian. Hell, you're getting beat up and robbed because you're in a neighborhood and somebody's saying, look, I need to get 50 or $1 so I can go buy something to eat. And I'm going to go steal this old woman's purse to get fed. You see, the white media, the system that they set up caused criminality, caused you to go and do things that you have to do. You see, Tucker Carlson and all of these people from your white mainstream media, they basically have to set the narrative that it's black people. Because, see, they are not wanting to insult their buffer class, the Asians, and the Asians not wanting to what? Insult the white supremacists. Why is the Asian community not saying white supremacy here? You got to question that. They are not talking about or speaking out against the white supremacists. They're not talking about what Robert Aaron Long did to their families. And hell, they were basically protesting, and they actually came in defense of Peter Liane when he shot Akai Gurley. They were adamant, I'm going to protect this Asian guy. But see, when a white supremacist open fire on you, let's stop hate. Let's stop crimes. Blah, blah, blah. You see, and you got them talking about black people doing this. You see, this is what we're talking about. You see, the model minority is basically blaming the people who have basically gave them their financial and economic district. We have basically financed the Asians and protected them for years. For ever since going back past the Korean War, other types of wars that we fought in, and basically where black men died on the soils in South Korea or Korea in general, helping Asian people when the white supremacists were attacking them. It has been the black man who has stood up and and helped the Asian community and black people in general. Our women going to these salons and beauty salons get attacked. Go back and look at my commentary. Remember, I told you that the Asians do not have a corporation where you can call and say, hey, I didn't like how you did my arch eyebrows. And then on a flip note of that, hell, you're not going to talk to nobody in the on the corporate level and say, okay, we're going to take care of that. No, you got the Asian business owner coming out putting you in a headlock. Shit, you're going to take this, blah blah. And you're not getting your money back and punching you out. That's their corporate office. Their corporate, their way of handling issues like that when a customer, a black female, basically is upset with her, how her eyebrows are arched, is punching you in the face. And then when you basically get beat by these Asians, you got the same women going back into these stores because the Asian businessman is now going to give you 50% off on weed. You see the attack that the Asians have been doing to black women. That's what had skyrocketed. Not no violence from black men against Asian people. The white supremacists are basically exacerbating their lies and their propaganda because the black media has taken control of the narrative. That narrative being that the white supremacists have become so bold that it's trying to put black in against Asian people. Now, your LGBT people and the black feminists and all these other people and your Shea Butter Twitter crowd, they basically are quiet right now. Because see, White Daddy, when he shoots and kills somebody, you don't have your Shea Butter Twitters, you don't have Tarana Burke coming out there talking about Me Too and all this crap. That only happened when a black man does something, okay? Because she knows that there is no repercussion in turning against her own men. You got to understand, these people in the LGBT community, they're quiet as well. You understand? Because they know that they don't basically say or do anything. When White Daddy is committing crimes, you better shut your mouth. And that's what they do. The LGBT community, the white women who come out there and punch these Asian and talk crap to these black women and discriminate against them, and they're up there, fantasizing of having them a zaddy. These are the types of women who have got their mouth closed because it's White Daddy out here making all this noise. You see, they have to wait. Now they're going out to TI, right? And so here's your LGBT people coming out. You got to basically deflect away from the truth. And so they're going to start going after certain types of black men in the music industry or in the film business. They like to go after us because it basically scapegoat and it takes all of the accusations off in white men, okay, as the original perpetrators. As activist Sean King has pointed out, this violence that white men has perpetrated in America is specifically have been white men who have basically their numbers of just creating all types of harm and terror against blacks and other minorities. That number is has skyrocketed. So when Tucker Carlson talks about statistics, he is not going to basically tell the truth because he has to defend the propaganda that the white media is spewing out, the propaganda to basically take the information, take the blame from the actual perpetrators and onto victims. Okay, the black man is a victim. Okay, and it's easy for you to target a victim. You see, and that's what they have done. And then here come the LGBT community and your Shea Butter Twitters. They go and help White Daddy with that lie in the mass media. You have Joy Reid out there. She's not saying anything about it. You see, because White Daddy didn't give her permission to. You understand? So that's the reason why the new voices of black media, has always been the one who have basically called out these people. The new voices of black media is leading the charge against white supremacy. And we basically, even if he shot and killed us, we still have more channels coming. You see, in a minute, it will be a huge network that nobody, even a white woman said that nobody listened to the mainstream white media. So the government, all these private people, the elitists, they're upset. So they're just going to go targeting any black man they can find, any black woman they can find. They're going to target. And so go ahead and like, share, subscribe, family. We basically is calling out the white supremacists and their attack on us. You see? So Kyle Rittenhouse, for instance. Oh yeah, they're getting them young. They're getting them. Nellie Ford taught us that the white supremacist, a white person know how to be a white supremacist at the age of 9 or 10 years old. They're getting them young. Kyle Rittenhouse, what he did in Kenosha, they're getting them young. They're attacking them. They're basically educating them young. And they have their police department. That's the reason why you're talking about enforcing the law. These people do not enforce laws on themselves. The white supremacists are very clear that they're not going to enforce laws on themselves. So when the entire country start acting a fool, now they have to get only one or two people who sacrifice. This jury that they got in the Derek Chauvin trial, they're already playing the games with us. They're already trying to put a fast one on us. They're already trying to take the jury here. So they could try to find a way to get this man out like they did George Zimmerman. You understand? So we have to be very careful about what white supremacy is up to. And that's the reason why you have to keep listening to the black media, because we are the one who speak truth to power. We have Africa Diaspora News and Phil Scott, who has a global African network that teaches and educates our people, and there's a collective there. That's a very important news outlet, right? So we have to understand the truth. You see, the ideals here used to be a point where the old civil rights generation back in the 1990s, they would try to go behind closed doors like they did with Joe Biden and them. They would try to go behind closed doors and they would try to cut a deal. You understand? Speaking of deals, we have George Floyd family has struck $1 million deal with the city. Now, here's the thing about this. This is a problem. It was Tamir Rice's mother has came out, y'all, and she had put Benjamin Crump and all these other people out. She put them on blast. Now she called out Tamika Mallory. She is basically speaking truth about these fools. You had Mike Brown's father asking, "Where's all this money from this Black Lives Matter protest?" You see. So we got people now, black people, enough of us. Now you still got a lot of black people who are still going out clubbing and partying, and they're drinking themselves, and they, engage in all kinds of behavior because they don't want to deal with their issues. We still got those black people. You're going to always have them, of course. But you got enough black people who are what? Speaking truth to power, who is basically have taken over and control of the media. See, the grassroots media is very important for the black race. You see, it used to be a time where the civil rights generation was able to manipulate us, and White Daddy would tell them to go and help and participate in a march, and they basically will come, and then before you know it, everybody else got paid. The civil rights generation, the civil rights leaders get paid, and then before the sun go down, they go back with all of their money, and basically they create a clown show. You see, the civil rights generation now is no longer leading the charge, as I often said. Okay? And so now they're going after the rappers. That's the reason why T.I. is in trouble right now. You on a pod show bringing on people, and you're talking about certain types of things that the elitists are now upset about. Oh, they're going to have to call you out on that. You see, that's the reason what they do. They basically, when they give you a deal, you're supposed to be quiet. But T.I. is not being quiet. He started his own podcast. And he's going out there doing what the white supremacists is not wanting him to do. You see? And so now they got these women lying, talking about that he drugged them, and they basically they got to find people, black men in the music industry, because when you put a specific person who is famous in the black community on the subject, and you basically go and get them, that lets the rest of the black community know, oh man, the system is going after this person, the system is going after that person. You understand? So T.I. have to now watch out. His wife have to watch out. They're in trouble here now, like Bill Cosby and all these other people that the white supremacists are went after of. So they're after people because the white supremacists are getting desperate. They're losing control of power. They're upset about it. They're upset about that we basically are controlling the narrative. They don't know. They're so upset and they're so nervous that they think that the same thing that they're doing is going to actually work. You see, no, we have a grassroots movement now. The grassroots movement is moving us towards a different direction. The grassroots movement is keeping us on code. You see, it used to be a time where the old civil rights generation will have led us astray. And they only have like a few black people like Malcolm who said, no, we're not going to follow that. We're not going to follow no integration like Dr. King wanted us to do. This is what we're going to be doing. You see, we don't see in the 1960s and the 70s and 80s and 90s, there was only a few black people who basically were not afraid to not only speak truth to power, but to also rise up against the white supremacists. See, now you got a lot more of us. You see, but back in those days, it was only about 20 million of us. Now we have double that, along with 11 million black immigrants who basically, I'm sorry, I think 3 million, I'm sorry. No, it's about 9 million to 11 million immigrants among the black community. And so every now and then, who basically will side with the white supremacists, and they would try to get those black people to coon themselves and try to get them to help in the control of the narrative. Like this guy Panaki who calls me all the time. He's a part of that particular group, right? He is from a country, some type of country over there in the Caribbean, and he likes to call my show and justify and rationalize the white supremacist talking points. So when you watch my show, you say, "Oh shit, that lawyer Henderson, he's a conservative. A conservative, sir, conservative. See, he's a conservative. See, you see, those people that I bring on, regardless of what you are, I don't mind people calling my show. I really don't. Whether you're conservative, Democrat, whoever. But basically, I just want respectful dialogue. That's all. And when you're on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show, that's all we ask for is respectful dialogue. We don't care about your beliefs, okay? Other people in the black media, they're not going to give you that. You see, they're not going to do what the white supremacists call my show up and do and call me a monkey. And they know that they're cowards, though. They will not show their face. A white supremacist won't say it in my face without having a gun or a weapon or having the police on their side so that after I whoop their behind, then I can be arrested because, see, that's a whole system. You understand? That's the reason why you don't have to prove nothing to nobody because you already know these people have a system that helps them out even when they get beat up. You understand? You don't want to put yourself in that predicament. But activist Sean King is right about these white men continuing their violence against Asians and continuing their violence against black men and women. It has always been what they've done ever since slavery. We're not confronting this. Now, there's some black people getting scared. Of course, we're going to always have some scary Negroes out there. Oh, shoot. Y'all about to see. Y'all out there talking all that, talking about fighting, talking about white supremacy, white daddy and white mama get mad now. Gee, y'all better stop all that talking about white daddy and white mama. See, ain't no such thing as white supremacy. Won't you define white supremacy? See, you know, y'all got to get off that scary stuff. You're going to die anyway. These people are going to mess with you anyway. You can be the calmest black person walking down the street. They're going to still mess with you. You understand? It doesn't matter how good you are. You got black people driving in nice cars that still get stopped by the police because of the value of the car. Ain't no nigger can afford this. Let me pull him over. Nigga, what you sell? Drugs or whatever. You know, not to understand that the black man or a woman who's driving their car may basically have a $150,000 job. You understand? So these people are irrational. And then black people play dumb to their irrationale. And so we basically have to get off of this propaganda that black men and black women, we are attacking Asians when the Asians, owners of businesses in these salons, are attacking black women. And notice they're only doing this when black men are not there. You understand? When we talk about the black woman not being protected in society, that's not true. Black men have been there. But for your independent black women, we cannot basically be there because you are up here talking about you don't need a man. You understand? You see? Join the Lawyer Henderson podcast show every Thursday and Sunday where we speak truth to power like nobody else. You're listening to the Lawyer podcast radio show. And join us as we're going to tone it down a little bit because we're going to have to do our business seminar. And we're going to let all the black business leaders call in and talk about their business. Thank you for listening. I want to thank all of my guests and those of you out there who was tuning in to the Lawyer Henderson podcast radio show. Talk to you later.